Daria, a warm hello. It is March 2024 and we are about to test the disk D18 in my catalogue. It's an IBM type 0665 MFM hard drive. We're testing it because it's just been sold on eBay, which is a bittersweet experience. Now this is the slightly less waffling version of the video, since I've sold 2 discs today. And if you want the more waffling version of another testing video, you can see, they'll be in the notes, you can check that. Anyway, the first thing to do is I'm going to power on the D18 drive. Now it's attached through a separate power supply, as in not the one connected to the Cromemco computer, because there's no better way than to blow up an old linear power supply than connected to a shorted out hard drive. Anyway, I'm sure that's not going to happen. We've got D18. It's sitting here. Can we see that better? Not really. You can see where my hand's pointing. Okay, so I'm going to power on the drive. It's a separate PC power supply which I've got here. Let's listen to the startup sound, shall we? Perfect. That's a perfect startup sound for this IBM drive. I've heard that for so many years when I was using a two-drive Cromemco system in London. Oh, I'm trying not to waffle. Hang on. Right. So the next thing to do is power on the Cromemco test system, which is here. You can tell it's a fancy system because it prints out that message about DDoS. Now, only the last Cromemco systems ever made print that message out. Shows you it's a 68020 system, booting from the A drive. So we've managed to make, well, I've managed to make a single floppy disk boot of the Cromemco operating system 172 for the XXU CPU, and that's, the disk is just big enough to fit a skeleton system on the floppy drive. So bearing in mind this is a Unix-like system, and it's dated, this operating system is dated about 1987, I would say. This was, in 1987, this was state of the art. We're testing the memory. We're going to boot from a floppy drive, and manual device is 0. Whilst we're doing that, I'm going to get the disk catalogue up. This is disk D18. Let's see if we can find it in the catalogue. Again, just to remind you, the catalogue is available to Cromemco users. You just got to join the Cromemco Google group and then join the Cromemco GitHub. So, what do we see here? We've got disk D18. It's tested in the 2022 and 2016. The jumper is drive 1. You've got between 1 and 4. And I've got some extra debug information here on drive 1. It's a perfect drive according to many different analysis programs. Right, we're booted up. We're going to do a disk info of STD31, which is the device number that's the whole drive. And it is there. It's the entire drive. We're going to do it init hard, and of device STD31. You can take all the defaults. It knows about this because this is on the partition table. Syntax 21, starting cylinder. I don't like that. Let's make it 733. Doesn't have any write pre-compensation needed. I do want to initialize tracks. I want to start the whole thing, everything. Right, there should now be some fast forwarding. Okay, we have finished. And are we going to change partition table? No, we're not. We're going to leave the alternate track at 730, very good. We can't add any alternate tracks because we don't know if anything's faulty, we hope. Well, I say faulty. Most discs contain defects. And indeed there's a defect table written on this panel here, and it's a very long one actually. For that, we're going to read all minus A of STD31. So at this point we're going to read every sector of the drive and check if there are any defects. And if there are any defects, we can add them into the the software defect table for this drive. Now this is something only the Cromemco disk controller knows about. So with later generations of hard drive, the defect management is held and managed on the drive itself. But in the early days of hard drives, consumer hard drives, that was done via software. So you'd run a program like readall, you'd find any surfaces and cylinders that couldn't be read, and then you'd make a note of that on a piece of paper, and then you'd enter those into the alternate track table. You'd run in it hard again. You do no formatting, but you just change the alternate track table. And if you recall, the alternate track table maps. So you create a special area called the alternate track table, which needs to not be defective. And you look at the rest of the hard drive, and if you say cylinder 100, surface 0 was defective, you can map that to a surface in the alternate track table. So ours started at 730 surface 0. So in my example, if say cylinder 100 surface 1 was defective, we could map that to the first free alternate track, which would be cylinder 730 surface 0. And whenever the software tried to seek to that cylinder and the surface, it would instead jump to that alternate track area. But that would all be done in the software driver for the operating system. It would not be done. So the operating system had to know and read, let's say, the alternate track table at boot and construct in its device driver a little jump table to say, for every surface and cylinder that you're jumping to, except for these, you're going to jump to this alternate area. Okay, time for some fast forwarding, I think. Getting very close, no errors so far, isn't that wonderful? Wow, totally error-free. Totally error-free. So just to remind everyone, this is a drive which is, let's say, up to 40 years old. Almost, probably is 40 years old. Bought in the 1980s by me. One owner from you, that's me, cost me well over £500 for this drive. And now it's going on its eBay journey. It's been reformatted, and I hope the new owner will take good care of my little baby.